Welcome to the Soberish Uprising. My name is Holly Carrivo, a former heavy drinker who started a soberish journey about a year and a half ago that changed everything. On Soberish Uprising, we share stories of finding freedom from alcohol on our own terms. And today I am joined by one of my favorite people on the planet, my younger brother, Brent.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah. For those of you
What's
listening on
up,
the
Holly?
podcast, he looked around and it's all, what's up with you?
Not much. I'm excited to be one of your first guests on your podcast. And thank you for having me and looking forward to our discussion.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
You are the first guest, actually. The
Yeah.
first guest. So first one, best
Very,
one, can
yeah.
only
First
go
one, best. Should
up
all
from
go
here.
uphill from here.
Something like that. Well, obviously I had to have you on. As I mentioned, if you've seen, I started my soberist journey a little over a month and a half, or no, excuse me, a year and a half ago. And you were the most supportive person to me. You were the biggest encourager. You were somebody I saw go ahead of me in this journey, that showed me that it could be done. And you did it in such a judgment-free, unattached, encouraging way that I will forever be grateful for. So thank you.
Well, thank you for that. I am grateful for all the things lately that have happened since, when I chose to get sober, I guess, for my life. And then I guess more than anything, I think hopefully the universe, I always joke that the universe is better with me where I'm at and what I'm doing now.
Mm,
Not just myself and my life,
mm,
but yeah, well, I appreciate it. And I definitely hopefully go about it with grace and understanding that everybody's at their own place in life and doing their own things.
mm,
And I don't, um, you know, yeah, I'm never going to cast judgment on whatever people are doing.
yeah.
But anyways, thank you.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's like, we've had these conversations and why it's important for me to step up into this platform and speak the way I do is that um, wherever you're at in your journey, that's totally great, right? It's just honoring yourself where you need to be. And anytime it's too black and white or one way or the other, it really, it leaves a lot of people out, right? There's a lot of people left out of that conversation. So would love to hear, you know, February 2020 is when you got sober,
Yes.
right? When the
Um,
pandemic started or before. Good timing.
very good timing for me. I guess it probably, yeah, a lot of things fell into place as far as um you and Katie. People don't know our story, you or y'all's story. You guys went to Norway that year for a work um trip of a lifetime, and I was then changing my environment. I was moving into the house, taking care of their dogs, their house, having more responsibilities, and also just recognizing that I could really double down with what I was doing in my life. I
Mm,
wasn't necessarily doing bad choices, but I don't know if I was really fulfilling myself with the choices I was making.
yeah.
And so I had, and I also didn't show up to some AA meetings where I literally saw the sign as I was driving from the house to work there in Austin, and I would see a sign that said a meeting at 12, meeting at 7. They'd have all
Mm,
these meetings, and I was at one point was like curious, like, hey, I should
mm,
just go check this out, right? That was probably early or mid January maybe, and so I'd been already to 4 or 5 meetings at one point. Was gonna during those 4 or 5 meetings, I usually show up, drinking that night before, or whatever, never like stopping. But then there was a day where I was like, if something's gonna change, I've got to change. I've got to. So I
mm,
rose my hand. I raised my hand for the first time in one of those classes, and it was like, and the funny thing was the gentleman behind me raised his hand and he introduced himself first, and his name was Brent. So it
mm,
was very like a higher power calling, like one of these God things. You're like, yeah, this is my day to just like let them know I'm here and let
mm,
them tell me what to do or like listen a little bit. And those rooms that I went to for AA meetings, they were full of all ages and ethnicities and sexes. It wasn't one type of person that was
mm.
there.
Yeah.
And so it just gave me hope where I was like, you know what, man, I think, just I'll just stop a little bit. And so yeah, it ended up stopping February 6th,
Mm,
day by day. And then as COVID happened, I decided to not. And I took my time by myself with the Numinator and Berkeley, hanging out with the dogs and almost maybe, if you will, like changing the way I acted and did things, like kind of the brain plasticity is what we talk about, right? Where we
Mm-hmm.
really can change and adapt the way we want to, as long as we, I think, do it, believe it, and execute on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it gave me that chance to just do that for during the COVID time, and take care of myself, and ultimately just start feeling better,
Yeah.
um, as well. Because there were just so many times, just doing stuff where I would maybe drink a lot, eat a lot, and then be like, needing to throw up and things. Not because I'm just necessarily deathly drunk, but just like so full and such a
Yeah.
like, where it's like, wow, what's that about?
Yeah.
Why is that happening to someone who is acting, yeah, who's wanting to be a coach and be a leader and be a mentor for people and be an example. Um,
Well, I want to
so
like,
yeah, it was.
sorry, stop you right there. Quick question is like, you said you wanted to be like, you were those people at the same time you were drinking, right? Like you were a coach, you were a leader, you were all those things. So like, what was that like for you to be those like two versions of yourself?
I think for me, I would never take it out on my people. They would never know that,
Right.
but I would
Yeah.
take it out on me, that indirectly would
Mm,
then take it out on what I could be for my people and what vision I needed to see. And instead of seeing, I mean, and I'd see the positive, instead of seeing that, I'm probably just a little bit, just a little bit slower, a little bit,
mm-hmm.
not as confident in everything that I was doing. I guess, what is the saying? What's done in the dark is seen in the light.
Mm,
Sometimes, I guess, or
yeah.
what it doesn't. And I hated that, because I was like, man, I hate what I would be doing. Maybe, like I said, at night, or my behaviors, or just stuff where it was like, I'd say I like people, but then it's like I'm not really connecting, to people
Mm,
like I
yeah.
like I can't, like I do now, I guess, and feel now about things.
So like February 6th was like, you started going to ANA meetings here and there. January, February 6th was kind of like that date that, your sober day. Like, and I've known you obviously your whole life, and you've been drinking for a long time. I've drank since I could, right, legally and before. So like,
Yeah.
why then? Like, what was it about then that you were like, I don't want to do this anymore?
I think it was just about the fact that I had such an opportunity in front of me, and
Mm,
I've always had good opportunities, and so it's just like I needed to double down as like a person, I guess. I
mm-hmm.
also have history, like history in a bad, or in the sense of like, if you look at my life through like data, you'd be like, oh, this person has a drinking or like, not, I don't want to say yeah, situations that happened. I had a DUI when I was a sophomore in high school, at like 15,
Mm-hmm.
uh, 16. So it was like, um, I also like would write in different, journal, or like about it, where I would try to be a negotiator of how I could drink. Like, oh,
Right.
maybe just the weekends, maybe 2 drinks,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 3 drinks, maybe 4 drinks, like, or
Yep.
whatever it was, but it was never successful, and it never got
Mm,
executed. And so, yeah, I don't know what I like exactly. I contribute it to my environment. I contribute it to timing, I guess, and then just probably like prayers and blessings that like my family
mm,
has prayed upon me that I don't even know about,
mm,
like universal powers that like they've like put into the world for me, like being the way our parents and our family are. I know I have like probably a lot of blessings. And so for me, it was just like, yeah, I think I just wasn't happy with really myself,
yeah.
probably, I guess. So it kind of allowed me to heal, in that year. And then, yeah,
Mm.
so.
Yeah, and that environment too is interesting, right? Because like I think COVID was hard for a lot of people, right? They drank more, right? But
Yeah,
you were in a situation where it was just you and the dogs, and they don't drink that I know
they
of.
did not. Yeah.
They, oh,
Yeah, no,
and so yeah,
it's I'm very blessed and fortunate that I stopped somehow before that, because
yeah,
I don't know what I would have felt like and been doing, and like where my mind would have been, with when I would have started drinking a lot and been by myself and been in my own thoughts
yeah,
in my own head about things,
yeah.
like, and stuff. So yeah, yeah. Very, very fortunate for that, because I know a lot of the COVID stories are like you said, it's more drinking, typically
Mm-hmm.
not less drinking.
Yeah.
But in my situation, somehow I was like, no drinking. Like, so,
Mm.
um, yeah.
What's if you had to name like the top 3 biggest changes like in your life, what have those been since you got sober?
My top 3 would be, I think number 1, the way I feel, like emotionally and like with people more. I think I feel more and I like understand things a little more, and I don't have this tunnel vision of what I think I used to like. I used to
Mm,
kind of have this like where it would be here and here, and now I kind of see the a bigger picture of things and people and the way energies are now, because I'm very keen on
mm,
it and I've always liked
mhm.
it, and I think I've always had a good intuition on people and coaching and being around people and loving people and wanting to make them laugh, wanting to
Yeah,
understand like what makes somebody, you know. So I
yeah.
think it's just for me that feeling of being more confident and competent with that and who I am, right? Because I think once I'm who I need to be, like it allows other people to be who they can be around me, like
Mm,
and open
yeah.
minded. So that'd be that, like just my feelings. I feel more. Um, I guess number 2 would be uh financially, my financial
Yeah.
benefit of not spending money drinking or eating like shit or like buying a lot of drinks, or then just the things. I mean, I'm just not amongst it as much, but I still will be out and about, which is another thing that I am grateful for. When I drank, I wouldn't be hanging in the late at night. Now I can drive people and be safe and be
Mm.
watch over people, as they call me, the Uber driver. And I usually
Uber.
I always get lost usually, which is the funny thing. And
Awesome.
I have a GPS, but it's all good. They get there
People
safely and
people
get
love
home
an Uber
safely.
driver that gets them lost. It's super fun.
Yeah. But I
But
don't, yeah. And so, no,
yeah.
um, I think that, and then the last one is probably just physically. I mean, I think I'm from where I was 32, 33 to where I am like 37, like I look better than I did. I feel younger than I did. I'm moving better. I'm
Mm-hmm.
living better. Like I think my vibration is stronger than it was than when I was,
Yeah.
than I was doing the other things, which I think for me is it was just I think when you ask yourself, that's what where the line should be drawn, right? Is like, does this dampen your does
Mm,
this kind of take a lot? Does it kind of dim your candle, or does drinking allow it to still go? Because I think
yeah.
for
Yeah.
me, it would drinking would just take my candle away.
Blow it
And
out.
so many Super Bowls or like get-togethers, I wouldn't remember. I wouldn't know who won games until the morning when I checked my phone, because I would be crashed out by like the third quarter or something,
Yeah.
because I would start day drinking and escalating with like smoking, which is another topic of things of like as far as the like where my sobriety is like
Mm-hmm.
as well, where I do still smoke and I enjoyed that. Um and I don't know. And anyways, so that's just another
Yeah.
segue slash topic. But for me, it was just, yeah, the physical and mental, the like financially it helped me.
Mm-hmm.
Um and uh ultimately probably just because I really everything else, it trickles down once you can do something that hard. Because I wouldn't imagine, if you asked some of
Mm,
my friends a long time ago, if
yeah.
they'd be like, you imagine Crevo being sober, they'd be like, Crevo, like, yeah, right, that guy is wild,
That Primo?
yeah, exactly. So it's like I'm still some I still have the same energy and wildness, and I can be up amongst it, and I'm not, and gratefully I'm not like, oh, I want it, because
Mm-hmm.
I don't, and that's one of those things. Once again, you learn from other people, and that was something I heard in AA. He's like, you've got to want to be sober more than you want to be drunk to make it work. Like you
Mm,
have to like that feeling more than that feeling, if like
mm.
ultimately, and
I
things.
love
And
that
so,
because we don't talk about like how good being sober feels, right? We talk about how feels good to be drunk, right? If you have
yeah,
that buzz, that lightheadedness, you're carefree, you're more funny, but we're never like, do you know how good it feels to be sober and totally into a moment and know you're going to wake up and feel great, and like the confidence it builds. We just don't talk about that enough. Like, you think like drunk's feeling good? Like, try being sober consistently and getting out of your system
yeah,
and
yeah,
operating, and you're like, oh, that feels a lot better than getting drunk.
yeah, yeah, no, yeah. I think that's just a funny, yeah.
Well,
That's
I'm
just, it's
curious,
just,
and we talked earlier this week about like connecting, and we got on this comfort or this topic of like discomfort, right? Like making other people uncomfortable. Kind of a weird segue, but we're going there. Because when
It's
you
your podcast.
do, it's my show, and I'm the older sister. When you do start drinking, it does make people uncomfortable, right? And
Say
it
that again.
does, I'm sorry, it makes people uncomfortable when you quit drinking, right? Because people can say they think you're judging them. And you kind of share, and I think this kind of ties into part of the like smoking story is that you're really quick. If somebody's like, you don't drink, you're like, yeah, but like I smoke or something. Like discount, like making sure that there's still like an edge to you or that they know you have like a vice or something. Like, tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I just want I wouldn't want somebody to, maybe in my mind I think I think that they're gonna be judgmental about me not drinking. You know, like, oh fuck, this guy must be lame, you know, oh
What a
boring, or
nerd.
like boring or nerd alert, or like, oh, he
Yeah,
must have something that's wrong, or like he must have really messed up something, or like, which
right.
fortunately I didn't necessarily mess up anything. It was just I didn't allow fluidity and like had too much chaos within it,
Mm,
instead of a little more order. But yeah, I think that's just kind of the way I am too. I want everybody to feel good, I guess. So I think
mm,
maybe that's my way of not being like, oh yeah, like, because I really don't, I don't care if people drink, but it's like, and so yeah, it's like, I don't care. I just want you to be happy, you know? And I
mm,
think, and sometimes now I see the people that can drink and be like, candles still up. And then I can see some people where I'm like, that's
mm.
interesting. Those behaviors look familiar to me. I'm not saying that it's the same, but I'm saying it's familiar. And
Yeah.
I feel like I've been in those shoes before. And I see
Mm,
how now that you used to be like, and now we're just like, you know, where
yeah.
you're like, man, is that fun? Like you said, is it fun? Like, I never, like the commercials and things you see on TV, like I never had that much. I mean, I'd have fun sometimes, but not,
But
you
it like
know, the
goes
way,
like
not the way
this, and
I
then
think.
it's like that, right? Most people,
Yeah, it's
right? You're
like,
like fun,
ah,
fun, fun, fun. And you're like,
yeah,
well, and like I think, yeah, and I think that could discomfort and like we're still wanting to have a little bit of edge, right? Like I'm not,
yeah,
and I'm here for a good time, but it's so funny how we think we have to be doing some type of substance, whether it's like weed, booze,
yeah,
whatever that is, and you're like, no, really, you don't. So I'm curious, when we talk about soberish, and this is something, we get to define what our soberish looks like, right? Mine for
yeah,
me is like just I don't drink that much at all anymore. It's been, I think,
yeah.
like 94 days since my last drink. I had a drink at Christmas and I just don't know when I'll have another one. So for you, how do you define soberish?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just where I'm at and what I'm doing now, right? Like
Mm,
being kind of more in the moment of what I need and want, or not want, but yeah, I mean, like for me, like I was never, like I said, I know some people feel that like when they smoke, they get that way too, right? Like
yeah.
where they like would just like where they're kind of like, I can't do that. And I'm like, oh, okay, I get that. So I think there's like different
Mm,
ways that we do that. I mean, I think for me, there's definitely times that I had when I was an RA in the dorms, or an art resident director. I mean, we had this guy that he was Rastafarian guy, and he would tell this other guy that he's like, you're abusing it, man. You're abusing it. Like you're
mm,
smoking. Like like yes, it's like for me, it's something I've enjoyed. And I've had it in my life for a while, so it's like a comfort thing sometimes too.
mm-hmm,
Or even that, I'm like, man, I do need to like dabble down on it and not,
mm,
because it's something that might, who knows if my flame could be brighter, right?
yeah,
But it's also like, well, let's not worry about it too much right now until like, let's just do today. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like, and then I think it's almost like it's ever changing and flowing where you want it to be. And if you get in a good lane, like stay there if you like it, right? If it's
yeah,
not working for you, like see where the tides will go and kind of flow with it, because everybody has different things we're going through. And then like
mm-hmm,
if you do end up drink, like you can like no, or doing whatever it is, like yeah, I think it's just kind of like, and have some grace on yourself.
yeah. for sure.
Because as long as we're having you're having a conversation of working on it, like you're in a good space, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It was so funny. I had a conversation. I was on a podcast the other day and she talked about, she was like, so you don't like reset your days and you have a drink? I'm like, no, like that's like for me, right? This is my journey and what I think is important. And it's just sober-ish. I never,
Yeah,
whatever that looks like. So no, like I'm really freaking proud of myself that it's like
yeah,
500 something days and like less than 50
yeah,
drinks. Like that's really important to me.
yeah.
And like you said, you've got to find the
Your
flow.
percentage of that, yeah, is like
The
as you
numbers.
keep going days.
Like
Yeah.
that used to be in a month. And I'm curious, and I'd love to ask you, and I don't think I've ever asked you this question. When I, what was, when I started this sober-ish journey and I told you I was going to do it, do you remember kind of like what your thoughts were? Or do you remember anything that you, I guess it was, or is there anything back then that you're like, that you remember was really interesting about that time? Anything you noticed about me? Anything like any highlights? Because
Yeah, I mean, I think I I know you so much as a person that if I if I feel the way I do when I drink and I analyze myself like that, you're gonna
mm,
do it like times 10.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Kind of like you're
Yeah.
gonna take it not to the next level, but like you just like that's just like how and so it was like so I just was like I was proud that it was experimenting with it. I think it's a good thing to like experiment with where it's not like because like you said like nothing or everything. It's just like that's like a lot for anything. Like if it's like you
Right.
can never or you can always or whatever, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're like just see what works today. And like that's why even like with AA, right? Like I never went through all the steps. I never got a sponsor or anything, but I would still like
Mm-hmm.
listen to the big book that was talked about. I would still do the things or like still be grateful for like, you know, like just my gratitude of where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
As I said. And so, but no, I think I was just proud that you were like wanting to see where you could go with it.
Mm-hmm.
Cause I think
Mm-hmm.
ultimately I knew you probably had some like self-doubt and we beat ourselves up probably. I say we
Yeah.
meaning you and I maybe like maybe from just our upbringing, we kind of can dwell on things or like or
Mm-hmm.
not, you know, I mean, and everybody does that. Everybody thinks
Yeah.
about it a lot. And that was one of the things they say too, that like it's just staying active within doing stuff, right? Like like idle time's the devil's time. I remember somebody saying within
Mm-hmm.
those times. So for me, like whenever I did over COVID, I ended up doing a few different certifications and like relearning
Yeah.
some things and like applying myself where I was staying busy. I was cooking a lot more. I had the house responsibilities to
Mm-hmm.
get it like so I had all these things that kept me active and hopefully not busy where you're not dealing with things, but at least occupied in like checking boxes and feeling, ooh, yeah, I got that done. Confidence, confidence, confidence. I could do this. I can do this. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel better. Where it's like, if I would have drank as much as I used to drink, I wouldn't have felt that good to do some of all the things that I needed to do on that situation. But um, yeah. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Well, when
does
you
that answer
think
your
about,
question? A long one.
well, enough about you. Let's talk about me. What do you think about me? Well, when you think about like, and I think this, the problem situation, right? And I quote you all the time is one time you said to me very graciously, people, I still always butcher it. People who don't have a problem don't think they have a problem, right? Like, I don't think I have a problem with like eating fried food or with Twinkies or with, whatever. But like, there's this inner knowing. So how did you know, what was your version? And I think you may have touched on it, but what was your version of like a problem, knowing it needed to be different?
Knowing I had a problem
Yeah,
eventually.
because earlier you were like, why didn't I didn't know if I had a problem. And I had said, even for me, you're like, if you think you have a problem, you have a problem. It doesn't matter what it looks like, right? Like
Yeah.
I wasn't
Yeah.
drinking vodka out of a coffee mug in the morning, but like I didn't like it. So I guess for you, as we're experimenting with like what does a problem look like, was there like a key factor to you where you were like, this is a problem and I can't do this anymore? Or was it a bunch?
It would be a bunch, you know. I mean, I would,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I there was a time where I lived with you guys before you moved to Norway, and
Mm-hmm.
I and I started cooking food and I crashed out and went to sleep. or when I was drunk, I had cooked food and I just crashed out and the stove was on, like,
Mm-hmm.
I would see also within that time I lived with you guys, there was times that I would go out on the Ring app.
Mm,
I'd see myself go out and not really be like, I'd be like, where'd I go? I don't remember. Did I
mm,
go? And I
mm.
probably just went to the store to get more, like a 6 pack and like a Snickers and like some fucking chips,
Obviously.
Oh, and then like even before that with some of my like uh my roommates before I moved to Nell's place, we were like, I'm talking to someone, and I'm talking to one of them, and they're like, yeah, we talked about that last night. He's like,
Mm,
he told me that last night, like,
yeah.
and it's funny. So it's just like I'm one of the. I was a drunk, but when I drink, I wouldn't rant about things. I just show people workout exercises and how to warm up. And Naaman, my roommate, yeah, he'd be like, "Yeah, man, I know how to warm up now because of you being drunk and just telling me every time,
I
like, we're
mean,
pivoting."
warm up your joints.
Yeah, like, you bring your bands. No,
That's one. I mean,
and
that's nice. I mean, you still
and
do
so
that
anyway,
sober though, right?
but no, I mean, so it was just one of those things, that it would just like, and I think as we get older, we start knowing how we feel
Mm,
more and what we feel and being like, this
yeah.
isn't it, man. This isn't right now.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and it's good. Like, it's all good. Like, I'm grateful. Like, there's a lot of things I picked up later in life. Like, I picked up playing tennis later in life. Like, I
Hmm.
was 15. I picked up macking on girls later eventually, but I mean,
Good.
everything's happened later, so it's like, it's okay that, like, it was a perfect
Yeah.
timing for it to happen, right?
Right.
Like, it wasn't like it was, yeah, like, I'm grateful for it. But I think it was just kind of all those things that were just like boom boom, like, not feeling good, but then like, oh yeah, and then seeing people that did it and were like super grateful. One gentleman that would count the days, so anytime he spoke, he'd be like, it's been X amount of days
Yeah.
since I've been, or since I drank last by the grace of God, and
Mm.
so like things like that, I keep track of that on a calendar, just so I have days running and
We
stuff
keep
like
the same
that. So
calendar, don't we? Our mom gets
yeah,
us these
that's weird
calendars.
that you did that too.
I don't need to even tell me. These are our calendars we keep. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
On
so
this
funny. How
on this
mom
go
did it.
round, on this year, I'm on 197 days, 16 drinks.
Nice.
And 92, 93, 94 days since I had a cocktail glass of wine. That's awesome. Are you sure?
Yeah, hold on. Here's mine as well. Let's write the days
What
on
day
here.
are you?
Oh wow, I'm like 1,150 or
That's
40.
awesome.
48, 50.
1,000. Well, and I love that you talk too about like the timing, right? Like later in life, like I've, the moments, because I think a lot of people can be like, and I think luckily both of us maybe have like some regrets, but nothing massive, right? We didn't destroy relationships, we didn't do anything. It's just more of like, oh, where would I maybe have been had I not been drinking? But like, you're ready when you're ready, right? If I would have
Yeah,
had this feeling and
absolutely.
known, I would have done it years ago. So showing yourself grace, right? And be like, no, now's the time. I wasn't ready 5 years ago.
Yeah, yeah,
I wasn't ready 2 months ago, but
yeah,
now I know better. Now I do better. Right.
yeah,
Like that
yeah. I
thought.
like that. I know better, and so I'm gonna do a little better with it and how
Yeah.
I feel.
And whatever that looks like, and it's, talking a little bit, I'd love to kind of, as we kind of wrap up, talking about this, like, the smoking weed, and that's something that you do. So like this, I think it's called like California sober. So like, would you ever have an intention of doing something different with that now that you found such success with alcohol?
Yeah, I definitely keep it more to like, yeah, like chill times, not
Mm-hmm.
as habitual, which
Yeah.
I feel better with all day too. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so that's good. I think yeah, sometimes it's just like, I wonder if I'll be more irritable or less patient.
Mm-hmm.
But I should probably just do it and see if I am, and if that's
Yeah.
something, not that, and I don't even, and it's weird that maybe that's something I'd think about, like, oh, like, does it take an edge off, or does it not?
So we thought wine, so we thought booze did, right? You're like, oh, it takes an edge off. And you're like, oh,
Yeah,
for a hot
yeah,
second, and then it doesn't.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, I think, you know, yeah, I think for me right now, where I'm at, it's part of my life, but I definitely, when it comes to things like probably a wife and kids and things like that,
Mhm.
those type of things would be less of a priority.
Yeah.
Which right now I don't have either of those problems, or not problem. Edit check.
We don't edit. We don't edit on
Rewind.
sober show or anything.
Shoot, not problems, but no, I'm just saying like that's not
Yeah.
something in my
Yeah,
world
yeah.
right now that I have to
Yeah.
balance. But I do recognize
Yeah.
it, and that's something. Yeah, that's another story, I guess. Single-ish. That's gonna be my podcast.
Single-ish and
Single-ish.
leading with it a wife and kids are a problem is like a super good way to get somebody. It's like super
Yeah.
good.
No, I didn't
Well,
mean
and I think,
problem.
and I just asked that because I think it's something, but I love what you shared too, is that like you've met people who smoke and it dampens their candle, right? Like what is
Yeah.
it that like blows your candle out? And people know, right? That's why some people, I do feel like I speak from a place of privilege being able to be soberish, right? Like I've been able to like have one drink, then not have another drink for 3 months,
Yeah.
but finding out what, like owning your candle and what that looks like. So for you, if it doesn't dampen, like that's fine, but maybe you play with
Yeah.
it. And that's this whole thing, right? Maybe you play with it. Maybe if you've had an inkling like Brent or I did, like just play with it, right? I think we can take things so seriously, and that's why I still can't bear to say like I'll never drink again, even though I know that's like would be really good for me. It's just too much, right?
Yeah.
Like play with it, experiment, like give it 90 days and just kind of like see what happens, you know?
No, absolutely. I think it's, I think for me personally, like, I don't know if I ever thought it would have been like that at some
Mm,
point, because I did enjoy drinking, or like the part of it where I felt that way and then all
yeah.
that. But then eventually it was just like, yeah,
Mm,
that's not who I want to be anymore, I guess, Maybe
right.
that's just like maturity in the sense of and responsibility. Um, but yeah, I think everybody should, if your candle's feeling, and sometimes it can be people, right? It doesn't have to be a drug. It could be people that are
Mm,
around you that
yeah.
dampen your candle, like whatever
Yeah.
it is. But you want people that start, like, things that ignite it, or things that keep it, hopefully burning. And
Mhm.
and everybody's equation, if you will, or whatever, are slightly
Yeah.
different, and especially at different times, like it might change.
Yeah. Well,
So
and as we kind of like wrap this up, you kind of shared how like the environment was really big for you. That was a big piece. Just kind of that feeling of wanting something different. If somebody's listening and they're thinking, yeah, like that really resonates for me, I'd like to quit. What's maybe like one or two pieces of advice or things that worked for you that you could share with somebody listening?
um yeah, I think you just have to just believe and know that the person that you're going to be when it's done is going to be very grateful for you doing it,
Mm,
like
yeah.
it's a deed worth doing, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
It's like worth it to just check it out and see. And it's always possible for anything to happen, I think, like, and that's how I want to think too,
Yeah.
which is even probably more empowering than all of it, right? The fact that you, like, aren't rigid and be like, no, anything can happen
Right.
in this world. So, like, I'm grateful for being where I'm at, and I hope people realize that, like, yeah, they could be in the same place too, like whatever that looks like for them, just
Mm-hmm.
improving, their relationship with yourself, I think, like, ultimately, right?
Mm, yeah.
Like, and then that gives everybody else life and
Yeah.
around you.
Well, thank you for that. And I think what, and I've said it once, I'll say it a million times, like becoming soberish, like finding that freedom and that like empowerment with the booze is like the best self-development you'll ever do in your life. Like there will not be better self-development,
Yeah.
right? And so that piece of like knowing yourself and how it opens up, especially for probably people like you or me, we're coaches, we're active, we want to help and learning and development. Like that's this missing piece that can be so powerful, is like getting that freedom and making that
Yeah.
change.
No,
So,
absolutely. And we're around, and especially, like, it can be hard, I guess, for some people, like, with, like, I mean, now I'm around it quite a bit, like, I'm amongst it because I'm
mm-hmm.
around tennis. I've always been around tennis, and it's always been social cocktails, drinks after
Yeah.
tennis with teams or people, or like activities and stuff. And even you being kind of social in your world, like, where it's just, I think, like, as you've done, like, finding ways to drink a Topo Chico, drink something
Mm-hmm.
that's like find those
Yeah.
little things that you still enjoy that are refreshing, that so you're not like feeling like, oh, I can't go out. Get a shot. People are doing like, I don't think we do shots, but just do a shot, like get a Coke in there, get a Sprite, do a water shot,
Yeah. Yeah.
so you can still be kind of like part of it, but
Right.
um if you can, and if it's not where you're
Yeah.
like, oh man,
Yeah.
I need to do this, but
Yeah.
no, I'm
Yeah.
I'm proud of you, obviously, because you're my sister. But no, and what you're doing with this, and I think having that dialogue where it's not like you have to be all the way here, there, or there, just like
Mm-hmm.
have a good batting average, right? Think of it that
Yeah.
way, right? Like
Yeah.
a drinking average, like doesn't have to, you know, be
Yeah.
high. It can be batting 200 or something. But no,
Yeah.
it's a good way to look at it.
Well, thank you. Speaking of, I have my mocktail here. I have a Hi-O
Sponsored by
organic
Ohio.
blackberry lemon, like
Okay,
a aptogenic drink, and then I mix it with elderflower tonic water.
nice.
It's a little treat, but yeah, no, thank you for sharing. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for being an example of somebody who's like living a way better, not way, but way more exciting, present, powerful life than ever
Absolutely.
before. And the booze never had anything to do with making you this amazing human, right? It was always
Yeah,
you. You didn't need it. You didn't need it ever. So thank
yeah.
you for sharing. Thank you for being a huge support for me and a good encourager for me. And thank you for doing what you do, because I know you influence a lot of people out there.
Well, thank you, Holly. I love you so much,
I love
and
you.
I can't believe I got to get on this podcast.
I know
So,
it's a tough list. So thank you for tuning in. If you like this podcast, please subscribe, please leave a review, a podcast or YouTube. And remember, everything you want is on the other side of saying no to that drink. Have a good day.